This is the day we celebrate the American Revolution, and we're going to have a really good show. A little bit later, we'll be joined by Danny Postel and Fereidoun Dadrass, and we're going to talk about the upheaval in Iran. A little later on, we're going to have our good friend Carrie Liderson talking about the Republic Steel Strike and probably a few other matters. And we're going to start off with our neighbor, Dr. Ayo Maat, and her friend, Dr. Frank Yurasek. And we're going to talk about China's barefoot doctors, turning them digital and applying that concept of taking medicine to the people in rural areas to places here in the modern era in the United States and beyond. So good morning to both Dr. Maat and to Dr. Frank Yurasek.
Good morning.
Stay close to your microphones. Well, the way this came about is there's an event going to happen next Saturday over at the United Church of Rogers Park. And I believe it's, Dr. Maat, tell us the title of the event that's going to happen next Saturday afternoon at the United Church of Rogers Park.
Okay, it's Barefoot Medicine Goes Digital. And the theme is how one village pain and stress acucenters can revolutionize global health care and heal the planet.
I like the idea. You know, back in the old days, for me the old days, when we were trying to make revolution and we were certainly looking to every example that we could find, we read a lot about what had happened in China and the revolution in China. And one of the things we heard about that led both the Black Panther Party and Rising Up Angry and groups like that to opening the Free People's Health Centers was the barefoot doctors in China who took medicine, took acupuncture, took herbal medicine to poorer areas throughout the land and basically improved the health care of people. Was that the inspiration for you, Dr. Frank Yurasek?
It certainly was. About 25 years ago, I was living over in Wrigleyville and newly married, and my wife had a very terrible case of TMJ and very severe pain that pretty much incapacitated her for 4 months. And after spending lots of money with, we've got 3 models of medicine here. We've got white medicine, which is the drug therapy. That didn't work. We have red medicine, which is surgery. They wanted to cut the nerves in her face, scar her, paralyze her with a 50-50 chance that it would work. And it would cost lots of money. And it's only gotten worse since then, since 25 years ago. And so I walked her across to the Midwest College of Oriental Medicine to the student clinic, and in 20 minutes, for $20, with 6 needles, she was out of pain for the first time in 4 months. Now, I was an exec. I was director of corporate communications for a software training company that I just helped take public as director of corporate communications. But I was blown away. I had studied pre-medicine at Notre Dame and decided I didn't want to go to Hahnemann Med School and learn how to cut people up, slice and dice, and do drug therapy. So I spent 25 years in marketing and advertising to only find out that there was a natural way to have people heal themselves. So that was my aha, my discovery. And about 6 weeks later, there was a little ad in the Reader that said that a Dr. Yinlin Han from Hyde Park was going to be teaching people acupuncture and oriental medicine. I signed up for his class, and he happened to be one of the doctors. He was a third-generation herbalist acupuncturist who trained the barefoot doctors in China. That was 25 years ago. So we've come full circle because they trained 2 million doctors to take care of the people out in the villages and out in the countryside. And shortly after I took that road less traveled down alternative medicine, I met a Korean doctor, Dr. Tai Woo-yu, and he has trained 200,000 doctors in Korea to treat the whole body from the hand. Now, what does that mean? It means that your neck pain can be treated by you. So I become a teacher, because in the Neijing it says the inferior physician treats and the superior physician teaches. So I can teach you how to heal yourself. And that, in a nutshell, is what the One Village AccuCenter is all about. Us teaching other people to treat themselves in first-tier medicine. If that doesn't work, if it gets out of hand after that, sure, you need conventional care. But we want to we want to show people how they can address their own problems and keep them in check, because the Barefoot Doctor model was a preventative model.
Well, preventative medicine was the notion that back in the days of the Rainbow Coalition, I mentioned earlier the Black Panther Party, the Young Lords Rising Up Angry, that had these Free People's Health Centers around the city. The whole concept of preventative medicine came up. And to be quite frank, that's partly what led to the forming of the Heartland Cafe here, where we're broadcasting from, because it was like you got to take care of yourself. And you mentioned the Midwest Center for Oriental Medicine. I'm just wondering, who was the person who did the acupuncture?
Julie Duffy.
Okay, I don't know Julie, but there was a guy, one of the early people there was a fellow named Paul Shmievsky, who was a wonderful guy. He passed away, but he took acupuncture to Hungary. And
yes,
did you know
Paul
him?
Was a friend of mine.
Oh, he was a wonderful man. And
Paul and I did the S training together.
I did S too. We'll
I
talk
met
about
him,
that later.
I met him coming out the door of the S training, and he handed me his card. Now I had my three-piece suit, my wingtips, my button-down collar, regimental tie, and so I'm happening. I'm in advertising and marketing, and I know everything except I don't know that I don't know what I don't know. So Paul comes up, he hands me his card, and two thoughts go through my mind. The first one is, who in the world would want to be stuck with needles? And the second one was, who in the world would want to stick somebody with needles? And then 4 years later, I'm at the school he founded.
Yeah, he was a wonderful guy, and I'm really sorry he passed away. But I knew him from the old days at the Seed newspaper when we were starting Rising Up Angry, and he was a great guy.
Yes, he was.
And I've had a lot of acupuncture. As I told you before the show started, I have these buzzy fingers for a few years, and you went right to the points. I had some suspect notion that it was in my neck. People had told me that, and I think that I'll be talking to you after the show.
Great.
I would like to talk to a moment to Dr. Ayo Maat, who is a neighbor and a friend, and she's always kept me on my toes. She is in a wheelchair and was brave enough, bold enough, and good enough to actually call the city on the Heartland in the old days to make sure that we fulfilled our responsibilities. And ever since then, we've talked a lot, and we've argued a little bit, and we've agreed on a lot of stuff. Dr. Maat, I'd like to ask you how you got interested in the Barefoot Doctor concept, how you got to know Dr. Frank Yurasek, and what you're doing in this plan.
Well, as you know, I do a lot of disability advocacy, and I also used to do healing, but I did mainly metaphysical healing and acupressure. I got into Christian Science, and I stopped doing all of that. However, I've gone from paralysis to what you see now, and I met Cy Bounds, who knows Dr. Frank. He told me to go to the website and look at this wonderful video on holopathic hand therapy. As I watched it, I was quite fascinated by the fact that this was so simple. There was no equipment, there were no needles, etc. I've never had acupuncture. I'm not into needles, really. But his quote-unquote bedside manner was just so perfect. I mean, you could feel the spiritual energy. I'm into mostly spiritual treatment. And I have a group of people who their health is deteriorating. I have a board where most of my board goes in and out the hospital. I don't, but they do. I try to eat right, etc., and I try to keep up with resources for them, health resources, spiritual resources, people who are really interested in helping them because they don't have a lot of money. So when I met Dr. Frank, he actually came to my home here in Rogers Park. He had such a wonderful concept of setting up these one-stop healing villages right within the community, in churches, community centers, existing clinics, and he took a public health approach. And that's how I look at health and healing. I don't think that healing should be a thing that depends on your pocketbook. It should be something where between the provider and the actual client or patient, there's some love flowing, there's an understanding, and there's mutual consent. You agree to do something regardless as to what a person has in their pocketbook. If they can pay you the amount you ask, wonderful. If you can work something out, barter exchange, fine. And Dr. Frank, has an amazing technique for doing this. I actually let my daughter do this on my hands. I had some lower back pain that I had been having for years. She actually came to my house a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even know she had watched the video, and she actually knew where to go. She took an ink pen, rolled it over the spot. Oh, it was painful. But when she got through, there was no pain. For the first time, I went actually almost a week without any pain. So I'm waiting for another treatment, actually.
I know that
so
feeling.
She's very young, and young people aren't into, they're not into some of these new concepts. She took it, like like a sponge takes to water. So I would like for my group to be involved in this, whether they set up clinics or get their doctors involved. But I want to see people healthy.